You're now listening to Wealthy Sisters Radio Show. You're now listening to Wealthy Sisters with Deborah Hartnett.
Great morning, and welcome to Wealthy Sisters Radio with a View. I'm Deborah Hartnett, your host, and I am, as always, super excited to be here today. I'm telling you, this has just been an incredible month. We're celebrating the holy month of Ramadan, wrapping up the final days, and I'm telling you, I just want to wish the absolute best for each and every one of you, and just to let you know how much I appreciate you for taking the time out to tune into our show on a weekly basis. As many of you know, we have been around for some years now. It took a hiatus, had 7 strong years of consecutive, non-stop shows every week, every Tuesday. When we started, we were on Mondays there, but you know, it had some incredible guests. And now here we are back after you requested all of the beautiful emails. And I still, after all the years, will have people say how much the show has meant to them. Or I would have guests who would come on the show and actually say, you know what? Somebody you wouldn't believe. It's been about 5 years since I've been on your show, but someone reached out to me because they heard my interview on Wealthy Sisters Radio. So I'm telling you, I'm super excited to be here and grateful to be here. And as you know, our purpose is twofold. We want to make sure the first thing we do is to provide you, the incredible audience, with inspiration. Definitely inspiration. We want to make sure that you are encouraged, and we want to make sure that the information that you receive is information that you can apply to your life for a practical knowledge that you can apply to your life for impact, immediate impact as well, you know, not just to your life, but of course to your business as well. And then secondly, we have to make sure that we provide you with the best of the best of platforms to promote and say thank you to the sisters for doing big things. When I tell you, I like to share that we are multidimensional. We're multifaceted, right? And it is our purpose to make sure that we show our sisters in that light, not just one way that you're often seeing through the media today, but we want to make sure that you know that we have some sisters that are incredibly talented, doing some incredible things in the business world. So I'm super excited for our show today. Got a very special guest. I'm telling you, I cannot wait to bring and present her to you. She's someone that I definitely have a ton of respect for. Just had the privilege of meeting her. I feel like I've been knowing her for a long time. Yeah. I know that we are sisters in spirit. Yeah. When I tell you her story is absolutely incredible. I mean, I could read just a few words about her, but my sister is a social entrepreneur, you guys. She's the founder of the Zimbabwe Farm Project. That should let you know something right there. You know, she's the founder of that, and she actually lived and grew up in Africa after her father decided to move his family there. And when I tell you her experience and background is something that you want to grab your papers, your pens, you want to let everybody know who's on Wealthy Sisters Radio. Matter of fact, you know, we're visuals here today. Let me just see this pretty. That's right. We have none other than Miss Ayanna Nahmias. Ayanna, welcome to Wealthy Sisters Radio with a View, sister.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so pretty. I tell you, we just saw each other from LinkedIn, but I didn't get a chance to do a video conference with you. But it's so great to see you, and thank you so much for joining us here today.
For having me. I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As I was sharing with the audience, I mean, I was fascinated by your background.
Hmm.
And, we here at Wealthy Sisters, I kind of let you know we're a little bit nosy. And I really should say nosy. But as I was sharing, our purpose is a twofold purpose. First, we want to make sure we provide that inspiration and encouragement
Yes.
and practical knowledge, right?
Yes.
And I like to do that because people oftentimes, especially our sisters,
Hmm.
might have ideas, have visions, and thoughts of things that they want to do, but
Yes.
for some reason or another, we might not know that we can take that next step. So
Mm.
when they come on Wealthy Sisters Radio with a View and they see people like yourself, that's that encouragement to let them know that, okay, I can do it.
Yes.
So, with all that said, I'd like to say, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit of, we say, your ingredients that went into this incredible recipe that we see today. If you could share a little bit
Okay.
of your background.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Deborah. So,
Absolutely.
child of the 60s. And my dad was, and my mom and dad were part of the Black liberation movement here in America. My
Yes.
dad was a mathematician and physicist. He got his
Wow.
double degree from Ohio State. He did them
Oh,
at the concurrently,
my
and we were
husband would
living.
be happy to hear that.
Yes.
Ohio State, that's the only university.
So that was pretty phenomenal. He and my mom met at Howard University,
Uh-huh.
and that's how they met. And so after the whole civil rights thing, we joined Nation of Islam during that time period. And he decided, actually came home one day and he was like, if I don't get out of here, something not nice is going to happen. So he just had never been to Africa, didn't know anybody in Africa. So, one of the things when I don't get often to tell this part of the story, but I am constantly amazed by my dad. And I think that's kind of what gave me this confidence. Even though I have, a conflicted history with him, I am amazed by him as a Black man. So he just went to Nigeria. He went to
Wow.
Nigeria and he applied to be a professor, head of the mathematics program there at the University of Ile-Ife. It's since changed its name, but at that time it was the University of Ile-Ife. And then he took my brother, and then he came back and he got us. And I also am amazed at my mom because, wow, what strength did that take to take your three young children? I have a brother and sister who are twins, and go to Africa. Just what do you pack? What does it take? What are you going to experience? And yeah, that's how we ended up in Africa. So first Nigeria in Ile-Ife, and then oh my gosh, and this is like something that I'm writing about. It's called the Ocular Safari is the title. We took a month long. After we left Nigeria, my dad got a job at the University of Dar es Salaam, teaching physics and mathematics. And we
And
drove.
where is that in
That's in
Dar es Salaam?
Tanzania, Dar es Salaam,
Okay.
Tanzania. Oh
Okay.
yeah. And we drove for a month from the West Coast, from Nigeria to
Wow.
Tanzania. And when
Unbelievable. What year was this, if you don't mind me asking? Do you?
it was 1974,
Wow.
75. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And
Wow.
so there were no, and I'll get you those correct dates. I have them on a paper, but I don't want to rummage around because normally I don't get into this part of the story. So please forgive the dates. But it was in the late 70s, and there were no roads. It's not like today. Today, Africa is modern. It's like any other, all across Africa, major capital cities are like any other country in the world to varying degrees. But back then in the 70s, it was just wild. And
Do you
so
remember? Do you have a lot of memories of that
I have a
drive?
lot of memories. I have a
Wow.
because at that time I was 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot, and I was the eldest, and I
Mm-hmm.
really bonded with Africa.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
became my heart, and I have, yeah, lots of memories. Eating termites, roasted termites, one of my favorites in Nigeria. I was really adventuresome. My brother and sister not so, but I loved eating roasted termites, and I liked the goosey and jollof rice and
Uh-huh.
all of that. Even though the beans had weevils in them, I,
Uh-huh.
I, I like the crunchy weevils. I know it sounds weird,
But no,
you know.
it's difference in cultures,
Yes,
and it's where many of us came from. So it's good for
exactly.
us to be educated and not be ignorant,
Yeah.
to the point that we don't know some things we eat here in the States, which was not a part of our original diet anyway, that we're eating now. Some people
Hmm.
would not they would not eat
They would
it.
not eat it, but it was much healthier. We ate
Mhm.
cassava, which is like
Mhm.
pounded fufu, um,
Mhm.
plantains. That's where I developed my love of plantains and palm oil. Well, you can't get palm oil here because they say it's unhealthy, but the food
Right.
here is supremely unhealthy. So I
Right.
still get my palm oil from Nigeria. I order it from a sister in Atlanta.
Mhm.
So, that's like some of the things. But traveling across continent, man, that was such a rich journey. At one point, we traveled with a convoy of the Red Cross and some other NGOs. But my dad had very strong Pan African views, and um, some might say they were racist. So they those convoys were white, and he was like, "I'm not gonna go with that." So we struck
Right.
out on
I
our
might as
own.
well stayed in the States.
Yeah, I might as well have stayed. And actually, that's the reason that we left Nigeria. He left Nigeria. He didn't realize, and I think a lot of people, and I want to talk about this a little bit with Zimbabwe as well. People don't realize how many white people live in Africa, not just South Africa. We all know about apartheid. All across the continent, white people live there. And when we got to Nigeria, he was shocked at how many white people lived there from, pre-colonial countries to Americans, white Americans, and it was just shocking to him. So he decided he wanted to go to Tanzania because Julius Nyerere at that time, who was the president, was a very strong advocate of Pan Africanism. In fact, like Patrice Lumumba, who was a famous freedom fighter, he sought refuge there at one time, and President Nyerere would not let them extradite him. So my dad was like, and it was a Muslim country, predominantly Muslim country. And in Nigeria, they have a large Muslim population, but it was in the north, and we weren't in that area at that time. So that's why he decided to go to Tanzania. That's how we ended up there. But traveling, wow, we crossed the Nile in Sudan. I remember like thinking that how the Nile switches its flow, and we were on the
Yes.
banks, and I was waiting to see it, like as a child, like to stop and then start going the other way. I was just waiting for that.
And
Waiting.
did you see it? Did you
It
see
didn't
it?
change. No, it doesn't. It doesn't change like that. But seeing, like, waiting for hours for a troop of army ants, like that were like the half a mile wide, crossing through the forest, and we had to wait. You couldn't drive through them.
Really?
Had to. Yeah, I mean that the troop was huge. Okay, half a mile's too big, but quarter of a mile, like wide, like they just were marching to wherever they're next. So if you had if you had crossed through there, they would get all in your car,
That's
and
what I was going to ask. Okay, they
yeah,
would get in your
and
car. Hmm.
yeah, and they would be very dangerous, very dangerous. And we couldn't roll our windows down because you had black mambas and green mambas, and they could like flip into the car
Oh,
at some point. Yeah, so we couldn't, like, we had our windows cracked, and we were driving in a Peugeot 504. Can you imagine a wagon? I mean,
so yeah, I got to go back to the ants because I'm fascinated with God's ants and how I don't like them in my house. I don't like them on me. But what I'm saying, I'm fascinated in how they work. You know, they put the work in. You can leave and come back and that mound is up, or you can leave something out and they're moving that piece of bread or what have you.
yes.
How did you know? Like, was there an ant patrol officer somewhere that's waving saying the ants don't go across right now? Like, how did you all know not to cross
My
then?
dad was from the South, deep South,
Okay.
and in Mississippi. So in
Uh-huh.
Mississippi, there were lots of anthills, big
Yeah.
red anthills. And I remember a story. I went down there one summer to visit my grandparents, and they told us, don't kick those anthills. So what did Ayanna do? She kicked and kicked and kicked because I wanted to see. Girl, I had some overall on. Oh my gosh, they flew out that my foot went all the way, eventually went all the way into the anthill, and they crawled up into my pant legs and
Oh my
started
gosh.
biting me. And I was running and screaming, stripping. I learned my lesson.
You learn. You go, as
I
they say, you
learned.
gonna learn today.
You're gonna learn today. So, and my grandmother had no sympathy. She was like, I don't need to beat your ass. 'Cause she learned. You
Save
know,
me some trouble.
save me some trouble. That was the
Yes.
days of, when you got the beat down.
Yes.
Things have
Yeah.
changed now. But
Yeah.
so we knew that. So you weren't gonna
Hmm.
do that. My dad would use a machete to cut
Hmm.
through the brush, so that
Wow.
we could get through. Um, the other thing, we got stuck in a bog for 3 days in
And is that like a mud?
It's
What
like
was?
mud. It's
Uh
like
huh.
mud that's so wet. Like
Uh
we
huh.
went, and then eventually the tires, we were pushing and pulling and rocking, and the tires just spun out. And we used like our blankets, we used our towels, and we used everything, and we just couldn't get out. So I have to clarify. I don't know if it was Cameroon, Sudan, but
Mm-hmm.
we it was Sudan because we went to Khartoum afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
we were in the car, couldn't get
Mm-hmm.
out, sat there for a day. We put cheese. My mom is an amazing baker, and I mean, she used to make the best homemade bread, and she would use cheesecloth. So we had cheesecloth stuck in the window to prevent prevent the mosquitoes from coming in, but also to prevent the bees from coming because they smelled our fruit. Because
Uh
you had to
huh.
carry everything. There's no McDonald's. There's no fast food. Period. So you had to carry everything. My dad had
Wow.
guns so that he could hunt, machetes, our own petrol. Um,
Wow.
so we were there for a day. It was really hot, no covering. It was like Savannah. And my dad was like, okay, well, we have to find something. So he took my brother, took the guns, and he was like, we'll be back. Can you imagine
Oh my
somebody
gosh.
just going off into the savannah saying, we'll be back?
Don't open the door.
you know, oh my gosh. It
Oh.
was, and my mother, it was my mother's sister and I, and she just
Hmm.
held it together. She held it together, and we would
What an
get up
incredible.
every day and try to push the car out,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
and without success. And she took all the fruit out and put it away from the car and tried to cover it so it wouldn't spoil. And on the third day, they came back with help.
They can't. Wow. I
And
tell
yeah,
you, this is incredible. If you had just tuned in, you're here with us on Wealthy Sisters Radio with the View. Our very special guest, Ayanna Nahmias.
Nahmias, yeah.
Nahmias. Please forgive me,
That's
Ayanna
okay, sister.
Nahmias.
It's okay.
Yes, and she is the founder of the Zimbabwe Project, and she's sharing with us her experience in Africa as a child.
Hmm.
And here on Wealthy Sisters, I just want to just share how important it is for us to network. We found each other on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And speaking of network, I want to just let everybody know that Wealthy Sisters is on Black USA News .news, and you can find us there. Our show re-airs there at 1 o'clock on Tuesdays. But I want you to know about BlackUSA.news. It's founded by my brother Donnie Glover up in Baltimore. When I tell you this brother has years of experience in the media, he has a huge heart for his people. I'm telling you, I mean, he is serious about it. And Donnie, you guys have got to meet Ayanna.
I would
He
like
started
that.
this Black Wall Street project. I mean, back when I met him in the early 2000s. And he does these annual awards and everything. But if you go to blackusa.news, you'll see so much information there relating to our community, from
Hmm.
politics to business to education. So again, go to blackusa.news, .news, and you know what? Let me just let you see a visual so that you can get this here. One moment, so you can have that visual there. Black USA. All right, so we
All
are back
right.
here with the lovely Miss Ayanna.
Thank
And
you.
we're talking today about how these business opportunities, or discovering the business opportunities in the continent, on the continent of Africa.
Hmm.
There has been like a mass exodus. And I know you probably know the dates better than I. I meant to refresh my memory on that. But I remember when Marcus Garvey
Yeah.
had
The
the
Back to
whole
Africa.
Back to Africa movement in
Hmm.
Liberia, and all of that was formed. And but now I know 2019 for Ghana was like they called it the year of return,
Hmm.
for I think it was a year of return. But
Senegal as
it's
well. Senegal.
Senegal. A lot of African Americans are moving, not just going to visit, but they are literally moving,
Yes.
picking up, like you said, some people retiring, some people moving with their children, some people are single, but they are moving. And one of the main reasons, I would imagine, is one of the reasons your father moved, just for a greater sense of well-being, belonging. I've heard a lot of different reasons, but another major reasons are the business opportunities that are
Yes.
there,
Yes.
and being able to be on the forefront of what's happening. I mean, the continent, we know, is super rich in resources. So Zimbabwe is on the eastern part of
Southern.
Africa, southern,
Southern.
southern, okay,
Yeah.
southern,
Right above South Africa.
right above South Africa.
Yes.
And I know there's a lot of communication about the West, people moving there. Can you share with us, what's going on the southern piece with your project, the Zimbabwe Farm Project, and how that came about?
Okay. So there is the propaganda,
Mm-hmm.
which has elements of truth. So I want to put that out there. It's not, there's
Okay.
never something that's all wrong or all right. The world is not
Right.
black and white.
Right.
But there was Robert Mugabe, and in the beginning, which is why my dad moved there, he was a liberationist, and he was one of the only African leaders that took the country back from the colonialist
Mm-hmm.
and instilled a sense of pride in African, Pan-Africanism, African autonomy, Africans' abilities to chart their own destinies, that they didn't require some type of paternalistic intervention to make it. As sometimes is the case, a good thing can run its course and then can continue on, which opened it up to a lot of criticism. However, there's a lot of pride in what Mugabe did, especially from the older population. And even though some of the criticism is, yeah, he did that, but then the people didn't know what to do with the land and they ran the country into the ground. It used to be that is not true. I mean, it's just not true. Yes, when you take away infrastructure, which is what happened to a lot of post-colonialist countries, they would take out the British, especially. They would strip the country or disable the infrastructure so that the people who were left there couldn't really make a good go of it because the infrastructure was gone.
So can you give me like an example? Would they destroy bridges, destroy roads?
Bridges, train tracks, irrigation systems, anything that you would need to be able to rebuild your country. So transportation to and from ports, the roads, the ability to import products and take those into the inner part of the country. The equipment to be able to farm the land. You have large farms, that takes a lot of equipment. You can't do that with traditional farming methods of oxen and plows. You just can't do that. You need heavy duty equipment. And then they would levy sanctions against these countries. So then the people couldn't even buy this stuff from the West to be able to import it.
So let me just make sure I'm understanding what you said.
Yes.
So this is when an African country is now, look, we want our freedom.
Yes.
We want to be free from the colonization of this
Yes.
particular country.
Yes.
An example, British.
Yes.
You're saying when they gave them the freedom, that's so
Yes.
crazy.
Yes,
It's kind of
it
like
is.
Columbus discovered America. Right?
Exactly. Right.
It's like,
and he
so when
landed
they-
on the wrong continent.
Exactly. Thought it was in India or somewhere. But
yeah.
so here, for them to give them back their freedom, in exchange, they're going to destroy, like you said, the roads, the bridge, stop, trading, put sanctions. Now, how could they put sanctions on? How would that work? Or how would that?
Basically, like what they're doing to Russia. I don't agree with Russia. Maybe that's not the best example. Cuba. Cuba's a better example. What they did to Cuba. You make it so that countries who choose to continue to do business with a country that's under sanction can get penalized themselves
For that.
for that. Yeah. And companies can get penalized for that. They have to pay heavy duty fines. So companies are not in the business necessarily of making political statements. They're in the business to make money and answer to their shareholders. And if that's not going to work, then they're not going to make that investment there. That's pretty much how sanctions work. So while Mugabe was alive, it was the country was under sanctions writ large. Now that he has passed, the sanctions are against certain individuals, kind of like they do across the world. Certain individuals are sanctioned, but the country as a whole is no longer under sanction. And so that's kind of how that works. So it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Look, they can't do it. So they needed our help. But that's not true. Given all things are equal, if we had an equal playing field, kind of like the same thing here, then we do amazing things. I just met a sister and his brother who's like quite amazing. And he came up with the term asset framing. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you're familiar with that. Um,
No.
his name is Travion Shorters. And
Mm-hmm.
asset framing is to speak about Black people from a position of their aspirations and not
Mm-hmm.
the deficits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we're
Mm-hmm.
always couched in terms of Black people across the diaspora as our problems. We're problematic. So that this can apply to what happened in Africa. You pull out all the infrastructure and then you say, look, they can't do it. They were doing
Mm-hmm.
so much better, kind of like with slavery here in the States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look,
Mm-hmm.
now they're in ghettos and this and that, but
Mm-hmm.
under slavery, they were taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yet and still, the resilience of Zimbabweans is amazing to me. And unlike other countries that I went to,
Mm-hmm.
that I traveled through in Africa, the people, like I never saw begging. In like,
Mm-hmm.
other places across the continent, you see so many beggars.
Mm-hmm.
There was poverty in Zimbabwe, but people want to work. Even like
Mm-hmm.
on the street,
Mm-hmm.
people were selling stuff. They weren't
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
begging. They were
Begging.
selling like
Mm-hmm.
hair clips and little
Mm-hmm.
handmade things and
Mm-hmm.
walking through traffic. I
Mm-hmm.
was amazed because I had
Mm-hmm.
never seen that before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so industrious, so
Mm-hmm.
full of pride, and
Mm-hmm.
willing to take the chance, and
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurial, very entrepreneurial. Um, the man that that when we first went there, my sister and I, to bury my dad. When we first got there, we stayed in a hotel. That's where all the Europeans stay. And we didn't know any better. We looked and we were told that was the best place to stay. And we did. And outside were all of these taxi cab drivers and private car drivers. And we asked the front desk, and they were like, oh, there's this guy. His name is Richard Marosi. And he's like really, really good. You can trust him. Well, here we are. That was 2015, and here we are in 2022, and we still work with him. I
How
mean,
about that?
yeah, I mean, I have to say, he single-handedly, except for my lawyer who's there, who's also a dual citizen. She's a African American sister, Black
Uh-huh.
sister from the States. She married a Zimbabwean and raised her kids there. But except for her, in terms of really learning about the country, the people, the culture, the nuances,
Mm-hmm.
Richard did that for us. So that
Richard
was a
did that.
godsend. Without him, I don't think that I would be in a position to help other people to make connections that are valuable, that are substantive and trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Wow. If you are just tuning in, you're here on Wealthy Sisters Radio with a View, and our very special guest is Miss Ayanna Nahmias.
yes, yes.
I got the last name right. It's only 3 or 4 or 5 times.
It's all right. It's all good.
But she is, I mean, her background is super incredible. She is the founder of the Zimbabwe Farm Project. And like my sister Ayanna, I want to see here. What did we do with it? Oh, here it is. Here at Wealthy Sisters, we are all about promoting sisters of super powerful business backgrounds. I want to encourage you to get this book. You can go to Amazon. It's available there. It's available on wealthysisters.com, but you can get it straight from Amazon. This book has, I mean, several stories. This sister will be on next week. LaFern Beatty is a very dear friend of mine, a business consultant, HR consultant. She's a business strategist as well. Another story I'd love to talk about is Miss Robin Wilson. Robin, I'm so excited for her. She came on our first show that we relaunched here, Ayanna, back in March.
Okay.
She came back on the show, and this sister has been in. You guys would connect well as well. She is in the green space. She was in that space before everybody was popular. I
Yes.
mean, back in the 90s. She's been in
Wow.
that space since. She's had her own line of cabinetry, a line in Bed Bath and Beyond, and now she has a line in Macy's. And on the show, she announced that she just signed a deal for her own mattress line.
Wow.
So these are
Wow.
the type of stories that we take the time to promote here on Wealthy Sistas Radio, in our books. And I just want to encourage you, if you haven't already, subscribe. Tell everybody about us so that you can get this book. You want to get this book. It's coming up Mother's Day. It's a great book for mothers. It's also a great book for your young ladies so that they can see. So again, Amazon.com. You could get Wealthy Sistas there. Powerful personal stories proving that you can do it too. And that's why we have Miss Ayanna on today talking about her experience and why people are moving, our sisters and brothers are moving back to Africa, and in particularly in Zimbabwe there, where you have your farm project. You were sharing with us, you and your sister went there when your father passed away, and definitely know what that's like. My heart is extended to you for that. And what a blessing, that he was able to leave something, a reason for you to go back to
Yes, I had
Zimbabwe.
never been to Zimbabwe. My
Wow.
sister had been to Zimbabwe many times, but I had never
Mm-hmm.
been. And my dad had lived there for 40 years. He was a dual citizen. And yeah, after he left Tanzania, he moved to Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
And, he up until the end, he was a professor, and he just
Mm-hmm.
really taught Black empowerment, African
Mm-hmm.
empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
self-sufficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked on his farm, and he grew everything using sustainable agriculture. He used a wind pump and to irrigate and to bring water to his house. And it was just amazing when we got there and we saw what he had done. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so my brother and sister, they decided that they were going to um, take my portion of the land that there was 500 acres of land in Mississippi, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to do Mississippi. So and then my father's land we put in a trust. And so it was just, we were like, okay, this land is here, it's in
Mm-hmm.
a trust. What are we going to do with it? And that's when I came up with the idea of farming,
Mm.
making this a farm project that people in the community could work on the farm and earn an income. Because, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, the people there are very proud.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they like to earn money, not have handouts.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of people in the community that just were not working. It's an rural agrarian community, and you're either working on the farm or you're working in someone's house as a domestic servant or just
Mm-hmm.
domestic. Um, and those are your options there. One of the incredible things that I discovered about Zimbabwe is everybody speaks English. I would say the majority of people, even on the farm, speak English.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've encountered, quite a few people that only spoke Shona, which is the one of the predominant languages there, Shona and Indimbele.
Mm-hmm.
But really, most people speak English, and I'm always amazed with that. And I like to put that out there: is the level of education in Africa
Mm-hmm.
far exceeds what we have here. When we came back to the States, we were in advance. We were put in the next grade because we were in advance of what the school system here was
Wow.
level that they were teaching.
You would not expect that, not from what, we've been taught.
You would not expect that, but it is the truth. And then where we people didn't speak English, or we needed a transaction to be um, more favorable, then Richard would speak in Shona and do all those negotiations for us and pave the way to make those relationships.
That's awesome.
And so that was, I had everything on the property demolished, all the housing and everything demolished, and it was just wide open land. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start this farm project, this private farm project, and in honor of my father and his commitment. And it was cathartic for me because we had our, I've done a lot of interviews, so I don't need to rehash that here, but we had our own difficulties. But as I've started out, I've always admired him. So this was my way. It was cathartic and also my way of honoring him and healing myself. It was like sowing the seeds of healing into my own life and into my own soul. And the first year was just kind of like, okay, 2016 was kind of hit or miss. What did I know about farming? I didn't know anything about farming. I just know that I love nature. I just like the earth. I like the way it smells. I like the stars. We live in the cities, and you don't
can't
see
see any of that. And we
see
miss out on the medicinal properties that comes from nature because we're in the jungle, the concrete jungle. Even though we have trees around us,
it's not the same.
the vibration, is different.
It's different. They kill all the original trees and then plant some other ones. That doesn't mean they're not trees, but it's just not the same energy, the same space. And that is so beautiful and so enriching. I'm an independent consultant. I am an IT professional, PMP certified, and I use the funds from that to fund getting this whole thing off of the ground. So year after year, learning more about it, traveling back and forth, going there with my partner, James, who's an engineer and who's also an IT professional, but an engineer. And he helped me because this is not my field, he helped to design the irrigation. He helped to design the solar power that we have on the farm and to get that installed. It's, you can get stuff done in Zimbabwe. Unlike other African countries, you can get stuff done in Zimbabwe as a woman if you know what you're talking about. There's a level of respect for women entrepreneurs there that I didn't always see in other countries, but it's so much better if you have a man. And or if they see you, they're very into family and into marriage and partnership. So even though we weren't married, they always referred to him as my husband and his wife, and I always referred to him as my husband while there. And so he helped with all that, and that's really what got it off of the ground. And then at some point, I was like, okay, well, I want to formalize this project and this program and make it bigger, to grow beyond my healing process and to really just take on a life of its own and to serve the people in the community. And so in the beginning, I didn't hire, but I would have the farm manager and his wife hire local people. Then it moved to women's empowerment, because that's really my heart. Having grown up in challenging circumstances where, because of my sex, I was not given equal opportunity and or seen as valuable. You might have heard on some of the other programs how my dad tried to sell me for 12 cows, and it's like a funny little thing, but it isn't really funny. And so I really wanted to see women uplifted, because if they earn their own money, then they can do with it what they want. They can uplift their children, their families, and a nation. And that's how the Farm Project came about. We became we got 501c3 certification, and that was an interesting process, but we do have that. And then basically the project started to grow bigger, and so now we're in a rebranding process, and the name of our organization is changing to Africa Vertical. And it's still going to have the women's empowerment. That's the mission. But the title is Africa Vertical, because kind of like manpower here in the States, I don't want, if a woman only wants to be a farmer, then that's great. But, if a woman wants to do something more than that, then this would be the place for them to learn how to do that, not through formal training, but through soft skills. And in thinking about Africa Vertical, I have a company. So we established a company in Zimbabwe. And I can tell people more about how you do that, but through my lawyer and accountant, formed a company in Zimbabwe. It is easy, I might say, to form a company in Zimbabwe. I mean, not as easy as it is in the States, but it is.
Okay, it's not as challenging as we would think it would be.
Exactly.
I get it.
And so we formed the company, and then that kind of started this process of me looking at this, going, women should be a part of the agro processing chain, not just working on the farm. And what does that look like? And Africa Vertical is really about Africa. It goes beyond Zimbabwe, right? And where we're going now is we already have renewable energy with the solar power system. And we're doing the poultry farming. So that's providing eggs, and it's also providing additional income to the farm and to the people that are living there. But I want to do vertical farming and hydroponic farming. People don't really realize, and this goes back to what happened when the colonialists pulled out. It takes a lot to farm. And the ROI.
What is the hydro? You said hydro what farming?
Hydroponic vertical farming.
Okay, what is that?
So vertical farming or hydroponic farming is what people are doing all over the world now, because there's a scarcity of land, and you can use containers. And you can use here in America, they use warehouses, they use shipping containers, and you grow vegetables, lettuce, tomatoes, and you grow them vertically. And through using water. And then there's aquaponics, where you use fish. So you have a dual system. You have fish, and the waste from the fish and the water from the fish fertilizes the plants.
And go ahead. I'm sorry, sis. Go ahead. You're going to say.
And the footprint, in terms of it's a carbon neutral footprint. The footprint is much smaller. The yield is higher, and the cycle of maturity is faster. So it can take 7 to 8 months for a crop to mature. And in that 7 to 8 months, what are you doing? How are you feeding yourself? How are you recouping you're not. You're just waiting.
You're waiting.
Right. Waiting. Whereas with hydroponic or vertical farming, that's a faster turnaround, and then you can take that to market, and you don't have to worry about land. But more importantly, it's the technology. This is, for example, when I I build websites. I build all my websites, the
Mm-hmm.
Zimbabwe Farm Project included. And when I went to try and find, we just relaunched the website. So we have a new website, new design,
Yeah.
and zimfarmproject.org.
Got
And when
that
we do
down here.
Africa Vertical, there'll be a
Uh-huh.
redirect. But anyway, and I could not find images of African women doing
Mm,
hydroponic farming.
mm.
I looked and looked. I found one image. It was beautiful, but it was Getty, and it was like $450. Yeah,
$4,000.
I was like, I don't have $450 to pay for a Getty photo. So, I looked and looked, and I found something on Shutterstock, and
Hmm.
but it wasn't. I'm using it, but it
Hmm.
wasn't really the one I
What you
wanted.
wanted.
Yeah,
We have
I
to talk
wanted.
offline about that because I
Yeah,
have brand development. I do websites as well. And it's like, it's got to be a better resource for
it,
images. It's
it's
got to
got to
be.
be a better resource.
Yes.
And but what that told me was that we are not in that space.
Hmm.
We're not in
Hmm.
that space enough to
Hmm.
carry those images on the
Hmm.
website. It also lets me know that we're not in that space enough, period. And that
Hmm.
is where the world is going,
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
deserts, in Dubai,
Hmm.
in China, all over the
Hmm.
world. So you can find all across America.
You can. I mean, I have some in my home. It's not as technology driven as yours is, but I've got the indoor garden and they have those little hydro pads that you put your
Hmm.
seeds on and they grow fast. So everything, like you said, is, that's where we're going. What are some of
That's
the things you talked about? Chickens, you said you have
yeah,
on your
the
farm.
egg.
What are some of, it's for the eggs? What are some of the other things you are
We
farming?
just finished a harvest of sunflower seeds, and
Oh,
we use the sunflowers to augment the chicken feed and
okay.
also to sell. And then we're going to start harvesting the maize in the first week of May. That's when
Hmm.
we'll be harvesting the maize. Of all the planting seasons, we've grown rape, which is like collards,
Okay.
turnips. We've grown rape, potatoes, carrots,
Mm.
onions, tomatoes, cabbage, corn, sunflowers. Um, and that's a whole process in and of itself. But again, not until we started the poultry farming
Hmm.
did um, did my did the need decrease for me to constantly fund all of the operations
Hmm.
because they're
Hmm.
able to sell eggs every day. So
That's good.
the goal in one of our fundraising efforts is we want to build out the chicken house to be
Hmm.
able to house 1,000 chickens,
Oh, wow.
and then with
Wow.
that you'd be able to sell to the big supermarket
To
chains
the big,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
And I have your websites scrolling on the bottom there. And if people want to be able, there a way that they can donate to the Zim Farm?
Yeah, there's a
Zimbabwe
donation.
Farm Okay.
There's a
So they
donation.
can go to zimfarmproject.org to
Yes.
be able to donate because if you're just tuning in, this is an incredible project that she has that's employing women there in the community, not just women, but that's your focus.
Yes. Women's
Correct, right.
empowerment. Yes.
Women's empowerment. They're right there in Zimbabwe. So if you will go to that website, zimfarmproject.org, hit that donate button there. You will definitely be able to, of course, anytime it's better to give than receive, but to be able to be a part of something that's major there. I tell you, this time is going by so fast.
Yes.
I have to
I,
ask you to come back
oh, I
again.
would like
I,
that. I just wanted to also say, people, there are different ways that people like to donate. We
mm-hmm.
also, you can donate through Facebook, and you can donate
Okay.
through our YouTube page. Um,
Okay.
but everything is secure. So,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
yeah.
And now on Facebook, is it the Zimbabwe? They can find it there. They'll be able to find a
Zim
link.
Farm Project, yeah.
Okay,
Zim Farm
okay.
Project, yeah.
And YouTube, is that the same way? There's YouTube,
Yeah,
or
I
is that
think it's,
available on the site? That would they be able to click? Do you have your social media options icons
yes,
there? Okay,
yes, down in the
okay,
bottom in the footer.
okay.
Yes.
Well, just with a few minutes left, if we could, I would love. We talked about this this calling that's been on you about helping people, those who are wanting to move, who are considering moving to Africa. Like, what would be some of the, I say, top 5 things you would say a person would need to do for them to make that decision or to explore, the move to Africa?
First go and visit. And I would say pick a country that's easiest to navigate. For me, I like Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Kenya, and hook up with other Black Americans or expats. They can really help to pave that way. The first and foremost, it just takes some courage. It takes you need to get out of the mindset that America is the best that you can do for you as a person of color, for Black people. For instance, just a quick little thing.
Say that again. Say that again, because we really feel that is like this is it. I mean, we hear it. We hear it.
Yeah.
We go through so much, but
Oh,
but ain't no place. You know what I'm saying?
like
And I'm
this.
not saying it's not true, but that is what we hear.
And it's just not true. And one of the things is that for me, as soon as I step off of the plane, I'm sorry, sister. As soon as I step off of the plane, I feel this weight lifted off of me. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like there's this metal cape that we wear when we're here to protect our psyche, to protect ourselves physically from the challenges that are. When you go there, and everybody, we took a sister and brother, his brother and sister, husband and wife, they went with us. And everybody experiences that. You just can, because when you get off the plane, there's nothing but Black folks, and they're proud. There's not that beat down that we have here. They don't have that, I can't make it. It's always, okay, whatever is going on, I can make it. And it's not make it like I'm going to be a rap star, a basketball player, or whatever.
Right.
Make it. True
Right.
entrepreneurs. So the first thing is take a trip and get in touch with some African Americans that are there. Explore how to start a business and recognize that you can fund the business from here. Try to find remote work opportunities so that you can work from anywhere in the world. You can go back and forth. And I think just having courage and recognizing this is not as good as it can get. America is good. That's not what I'm saying. But America isn't our country. It was never our country. It's nobody's country except for the Native Americans.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, we were brought here as chattel slaves, and it's not our country. And the dynamics of slavery persist to this day. And only until you go to the continent do you understand your connectedness. And we may not know exactly where we're from, but you're not from here. So why not take that chance and reconnect? The other quick thing is, like, I like when you go there because they're like, hey, my brother, hey, my sister. That's how they refer to you. We refer to each other as sisters.
Right. That's right.
But that's what I like.
Well, one thing you said, and this is someone else we have to make sure you connect with, is Gina Page with AfricanAncestry.com. You mentioned that we may not know where we're from, but I'm excited. She's coming back on the show. You might have seen people starting to see their advertisements, and
Oh,
especially on
I'm like
social media.
connected. I was gonna do because I was like, I
Yes,
have some Senegalese in me.
yes, yes, yes. But they can tell you when you do this DNA test, not like the rest. First
No.
of all, they get rid of your DNA. They don't keep it. But the one thing they will do, they will tell you down to the tribe, not
Yes.
just a region. They can tell you the tribe. So
Yes.
that's the beauty of being able to find something out like that, and
Yes.
then, as you say, that might be a reason for a person to move to that particular country,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Wow. So I tell you, what in closing, we know people can go to the zimfarmproject.org. We've got your other website scrolling there at the bottom as well. What would you leave? Like, what would be the closing remarks you would share with the audience about discovering those business opportunities in Africa, about moving to Africa? Not saying like you have your dual, you're back and forth. What would you, I guess, in closing, what is on your heart to leave with our audience with regards to that?
Um, that you don't have to go there to live. I think a lot of people look at it as a zero-sum game. It's all or nothing, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Especially we live here. We have a lot of family here, and 22 hours and 26 hours, that's a long haul if you're trying to get back for an emergency.
Right.
So my thing is entrepreneurship. You need to have your own business here or there. Um, and you need to have the ability to do remote work, and you need to have you don't need to have, I think a lot of people are like, you got to have a lot of savings, and for some people that's true, but I just use
Based on
the
that
income
lifestyle.
based on the lifestyle, and I just use my income, and that's what I used was my income to fund this, fund my travel. So I didn't necessarily have a lot of, and I think that's important. I didn't have a lot of discretionary income, but you can do it on your income. I traveled back and forth on my income. So I think that would be really helpful and knowledgeable. And also, one last thing, the lifestyle you have there far exceeds anything that you can imagine here. We rent Airbnbs when we go there, and they are palatial. And you can stay in these palatial places. I'm going to send you some photos. I'm going to send you
Please.
some photos of the grocery stores. And it's like amazing. And you're spending like, I don't know, not even a quarter of what we're spending here. I live in a little apartment here. And when I go there, I have a whole huge house with a grounds person and a pool person and a
And
driver.
like,
It's
what
amazing.
would you pay on average in American dollars, like just for a night like
Oh,
that?
they use American dollars. That's the other
Oh,
good thing about the Zimbabwe. They use
oh,
US dollars. Yes. They have their
wow.
own local currency, but for years they were on the US dollar. They went about 2 or 3 years ago, they went back to their own currency, and now they're back to the US dollar. So you can use either currency, their currency or the US dollar. Of course, most people want the US dollar. The equivalency is we rented a phenomenal place for a week. I think it was 1900.
Wow.
Yeah, for a pool, for 4 bedrooms, for cook, a groundskeeper, and the place. Oh, and that's another thing. A lot of Africans own Airbnbs there, and so they don't live there, but they own housing and Airbnbs. So this place was called Kamsasa. I'll send you that information, but there's no comparison. So why would you live in a little place here and struggle and stuff when your quality of life there, you breathe, the food is amazing, there's this non-GMO, it doesn't have all these chemicals in it, and it's just, you can breathe, you're alive. Yeah, you're not under this pressure, this pressure of fear that permeates us living in this country. You know, is my child going to be abused at Target, you know, and tackled by a grown police officer, or worse yet, shot and killed because they, you know, so there's a lot of fear and PTSD that I think African Americans don't recognize. But when you go to Africa, you recognize how impacted you have been and are. And if I could move back to Africa full time, if I didn't have my mother here and I would move back full time. But my mother's older, so I need to be here as she goes through life and her transition. And so I need to be here for that. And I want to be here for that. But if I did not have that level of obligation, not obligation in a bad way, but
right, it's responsibility and commitment
and love, you know,
and love, right,
and love,
and opportunity, right,
yes, and respecting our elders. I would go and live there full time.
Wow,
I would.
Well, I think we can just close with the fact that you said you can breathe. You can breathe. You can breathe. So that's why, you know, today, if you saw the show and when you're watching it, because we're streaming all over. YouTube is the main platform that we are, you will be able to see this on. The fact that we want to know what are those business opportunities that are there in Africa. You know, where are people moving to? Where are they going? Our guest, Ayanna's talked today about Zimbabwe. You know, I just found out they take the American dollar. That's another reason. But all across the continent, the same theme is what I heard you say is you can breathe. So we hope that you got something from today's show. I know I did. I'm kind of selfish because this is why I do this too, so I can learn. And definitely we look forward to having you back on, my sister Ayanna.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all that you do. God bless you. May your Zimbabwe farm project,
Africa vertical.
I'm going to say moving to the Africa vertical, grow, and may, you know, it be enriched, and may the people that they, you know, you touch, may they reap a harvest into your life, you know, and your children's life and beyond, for sure. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to Wealthy Sistas Radio with a View today. We are excited for next week. As I mentioned earlier, my dear sister, matter of fact, you know, we're visual. Let you check her. That is none other than Miss LaFern Beatty. She's going to be talking about the emotional intelligence in business. You know, something that's really, really important. She's a brand strategist as well. And a lot of people, brand. We had one series, we talked about that branding is not just about the color scheme. It's a lot more that goes into that. And she's going to be talking about the emotional intelligence on next week. So with all that said, we look forward to seeing you next week. Please remember to share, spread the word, subscribe, like if you enjoyed this information, you think it's valuable. The more people that you share it with, the more you like, the more people we're able to get the word to. So with all that said, again, I want to wish you and yours the best of everything great. Thank you so much, Ayanna, for being here today. Blessings to you.
As well to you.
This has been another episode of Wealthy Sistas Radio. Thank you for joining us. Catch the full hour encore Thursdays 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern and 24/7 at wealthysistasradio.com. The opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of our hosts, staff, or partners of Wealthy Sistas Radio.